Hey, this is Christian Buckley with CollabTalk, and I'm talking with Ellen today about this MVP Buzz chat, talking about her background and experience. Ellen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Christian. Thanks for having me on. I am a PowerPoint MVP. There are 14 of us in the United States. I think around 35 to 45 in the world. I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. And we're an unusual group because although most of the MVPs in general are programmers or really highly technical, we do have a couple of programmers among our PowerPoint MVPs, but most of us are designers or just presentation experts, so we just know PowerPoint really well. Mm-hmm. So my point of view is I really try to help people use PowerPoint to communicate, to get ideas out there. So I'm not a designer. In fact, I have an ebook called Slide Design for Non-Designers because I've had to figure out how to create great slides, and I've created a system that anyone can use.
I need to add that link to this as well because so I need to review that myself. So yeah.
There you go. Okay. Because people do need it. Most people in their general presentations, they don't have the opportunity to go out to a high price designer in their day-to-day work, maybe for something big. And, it's always a great idea. Anything where you go to a professional designer is going to look a lot better. But most people don't have that opportunity day-to-day. And so we all know what death by PowerPoint is. That's one of my things. I have a campaign against death by PowerPoint. So that's what I do.
So you're saying you're pro death by PowerPoint.
No, I talk about turning death by PowerPoint into life by PowerPoint. And in fact, I have a slide where I animate the slide and it shows an old-fashioned slide that used to be in a carousel kind of thing, but it has a dead tree. And then I fade it into a live tree. And that's my analogy of turning death by PowerPoint into life by PowerPoint. But the truth is that number one, people don't really learn PowerPoint. Nobody takes a course in it. People just kind of plunge in.
Well, they assume that they're right, or they assume that they know enough to get by. But there's a difference when there's somebody who actually knows what they're doing, and it can be an incredible tool. Because in my experience, about a decade ago, and I had a project manager who was one of my direct reports and was just fantastic with it. But I wish more people would take seriously. It's not just about the content of what they're presenting, but it's how they're presenting that. Right. It enables you to then better communicate those ideas. And so we do need to have some level of proficiency in this tool that is such a part of our lives.
Right. And it's not only the tool, but it's also an understanding of what presenting is and how to communicate ideas to people.
Right.
So it's a concept of education and teaching and how adults learn, and all of this stuff really goes into making a presentation where you get across your idea to somebody so that somebody understands it and remembers it and applies it, puts it into effect. And you also have to persuade people that what you're doing is important. So putting up all the text that you're going to read on the slide and reading it, that's death by PowerPoint. And it really hurts your effectiveness as a communicator.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm all about.
Well, now I need to read your ebook around that because so I understand that. I've sat through so many excruciatingly painful presentations where they're trying to put all of the information they're sharing up there. And I've done that myself where I do it because I want people to then go and have that as a resource and download it later. But there's better ways of doing that than putting all the text on there.
I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you the better way. Yes. So first of all, it's true that people do this because that's what they've seen. They don't know what else to do. So I teach something that I call the tell and show method. And it's based on some research by Michael Alley, who's a professor at Penn State. And he did some research doing different kinds of slides. And he then tested the students. And he called it assertion evidence. And the basic idea is you make your assertion on the slide, that's like the slide title, and then you show your evidence. And usually you do that with, it could be a photograph, it could be a diagram, it could be an illustration, it could be a map, it could be data, it could be a chart or a graph, whatever it is, you make your statement and then you show it. So you tell it and you show it.
Well, which is like the whole thing with, and going into demo. And so, I mean, most people are familiar with that, where there's a couple points, like this is why this is important. Now let's show you demo number 1 and going over into that other view.
Right. So, but you can do that even on every slide practically. Not that you don't ever summarize something, sometimes you do. So let me tell you the little secret about how to create handouts so that you don't have to put everything on the slide. And I just want to intersperse that. You said that that's kind of why you do it. You want people to have the notes to be able to take them home, but people often do it just because they want a teleprompter. Right. And if you want a teleprompter, then there are ways to get around that as well. And practice is one of them.
Right. Yeah.
But there's presenter view where you see the notes and the other people don't see the notes and things like that.
Yeah.
So the basic way you do that is you create a slide that is highly visual, and you put what you're going to say, all the notes you want people to have, in the notes pane at the bottom of the slide. Below the slide, there's this notes pane.
Right.
And then what you give people is a PDF of what's called notes pages. So they get, notes pages has a picture of a slide, and then it has the notes below it.
Right.
And so they get that. They get everything you're going to say, all of your notes, but they don't show on the slide.
And so, and I've done that because I've started to add the complexity of what I want to talk about to prompt myself. Usually when there's, as you know, when a presentation is new, a topic is some new material that's coming out, and want to make sure you hit the different points. If you're doing something, speaking enough of events and on a certain topic, you don't tend to not need that. But I have done that, and I'm generally allow people to download my presentations so they can see all of it. I even tell people, it's like, put your name on it, go and, and use it if it's useful for your business, because that's part of why I go and speak on the topics that I do. But the other thing that I do is that just for the flow, the continuity of the presentation, is that I will have slides that have more of the information around, and so instead of it being on notes, but then I'll hide that so the presentation doesn't come up, but then I can just go unhide those and upload it to SlideShare.
Yes, so that's another thing you can do. Yep, you can just create slides that you don't show. And the third thing you can do is export it to Word. There's a thing called export and create handouts in Word. And the value of that one is that it gives you more flexibility in layout. It ends up in a table in Word, so you can edit it any way you want. So that's just another nice, and there are these different configurations. You can have the slide on top and the notes on the bottom or next to each other. You can even create, like for a workshop, you can even create the slide with blank lines so people can take their own notes, that kind of thing. There's some research that shows when people take notes, they remember more.
Well, that's, it's something interesting, whether if you're giving a presentation, whether it's at work or you're at a conference around that, is always do think about, what is going to be relevant and of value to give to people that attended my session, because,
what a concept, thinking about what would be valuable for the audience.
That's exactly. So if you think about that, what they really want to go and have. And so that's why I love including in that I usually include in a presentation is a list of the resources, like where I went, things you should look at, people that you should be, go and follow to be aware of there. But that's something that, and being a technical marketing guy, I'm also thinking of that. Once you go and do that presentation, is the recording going to be available? Then what downloads will you have to have what could be like an ebook of your presentation with all of those resources? Go and build it once you're already doing that footwork, pulling all that stuff together for your presentation. Then it's just that next step of here's now a PDF with all those pieces, the slides, all of the notes, all of the relevant resources for that, with not a lot of additional work.
Right, absolutely. And with links that work. And you should, when you do research, I'm sure you know that, you should note where you got everything from. You should have your sources there. So you might as well put it in the notes at that time. And you're right. It basically becomes a kind of ebook, and all of those links will work and people can use them. So absolutely.
Well, I have to ask you, so and I've been meaning to ask this question to a PowerPoint MVP so what are your thoughts on, or do you use Sway? Because some people thought when they saw that, and it's a different product, and it very rapidly got added as a full-fledged member of the Office suite. And some people look at it like, why would I use Sway if I'm using PowerPoint or vice versa? Like, how do you answer that?
So first of all, you don't.
This is my one gotcha question.
No, it's okay. You don't hear very much about Sway these days. At least I don't hear anything about Sway. The value of Sway is that it self-designs slides. And so for somebody who wants something to look good, for example, they had an example of somebody who was maybe, I don't know, an interior designer or somebody like that. And he wanted to be able to put up some designs and then quickly show it to a potential client, something like that. So it was something you could get together really quickly. And it was much more design oriented and visual oriented. And it had certain types of layouts. Now, I think some of that has come into PowerPoint in PowerPoint 365, right? Into PowerPoint Designer. So I think Microsoft learned some of the algorithms they needed to create good layouts and so on like that, and have now started putting it into Designer. And Designer has recently been upgraded with some really cool designs. So I used to not really ever use it, and I've started occasionally using one. They have some designs with these big circles, which are really popular now. Yep. And they create beautiful slides.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, I'll have to talk with my MVP lead to find out, if there are Sway MVPs out there. I'd love to talk.
I've never heard of any.
Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, ultimately, how best to communicate what we're trying to teach, what we're trying to share, is that there's going to be a combination of tools, demo of the slides, the actual presentation layer to your message. And, if people are finding utility in using Sway over PowerPoint, they're like, do it. Then if that's working for you for that method. And, I've just, for me personally, the PowerPoint is just much more versatile in, if I want to go to printed, physical media versus, online and sharing and moving things around and animating some things, converting that into now where you had Office Mix, and now that capability.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
So that if people that weren't familiar with Office Mix, I mean, it's still out there, but they're now rolling the capabilities into PowerPoint just natively. But that's where you've got this old slide deck, but you can actually then go and record a video, have your a talking head, like your face on the slide.
Oh yeah, it does that very nicely now. When you record, it will by default put your webcam in the corner. Yep. You can take screenshots. You can take screencasts now from within PowerPoint, and at the end of all of it, you can export to video. Right. So and that's a great medium. So you can use one of the areas where I think this is so valuable is in e-learning or just in any kind of learning, like for trainers. So they might give a live presentation in a classroom. Then they might create PDFs like we were talking about with all that information for the students and for people who didn't attend. And they might put that online so the trainees can access that information in an ongoing way, so they have it when they need to implement the learning. They can turn it into a video. They can even create interactive types of things like a little quiz or things like where you have a menu and you choose something and that kind of thing.
Right.
So there are so many ways that you can reuse that PowerPoint presentation for different parts of the learning cycle.
Right.
I actually once did a talk called something like the Never-Ending Class or something like that. It was a play on the Never-Ending Story. Yeah. But it was an idea on how you
the big flying Muppet dragon. Yeah. Is that part of it?
Right. No. But the idea was how
a tray just randomly calling for a tray. Sorry, that's like, hey, I'm a child of the 70s. And when that came out, I can tell you that was one of my biggest film disappointments ever, because the trailers, the buildup for that was just fantastic. And then it was not very well done Muppetry.
I suppose the technology of it, but I liked the story. But anyway, I think they did a second version that was not very good. But anyway, so but the point is that you can take your PowerPoint content and reuse it and repurpose it in so many different ways and make it last kind of forever, because so many classes, especially training that's done in a classroom, kind of ends there, and then there's no support for people to implement it.
Right.
So PowerPoint can be an integral part of that.
That's my exact point, is that there's people learn in different ways. Some like to read, some like to be there, like the live and ask questions. Other people want to consume video on demand. And so that content, it's important to have it available, depending, again, your goal, but have that in these different mediums. And that's why I've stuck with PowerPoint over Sway and some of these other tools for my primary sharing of this information, because I can go and quickly, easily do those different methods. I do the creation once, and then some tweaking for each of those different methods.
Right. No, PowerPoint is definitely a tool of all trades kind of thing, like a jackknife type of thing, where you can use it in so many different ways. And in fact, very often when you read people talking about, how to use PowerPoint or how to present, they're leaving out the fact that it's used in so many different ways. So there are people who use PowerPoint to design print materials.
Yep.
And there are people who use it to mock up websites. And there are people, I once had a blog post about all the different ways to use PowerPoint, and it was unbelievable, all the different ways.
You mentioned right at the beginning, I also use it. I'm not a Photoshop guy. It's funny. It's like I was my original major, 3 years of industrial design. I used to have, in the early 90s and late 80s, early 90s, all the graphics programs and do that kind of stuff. And did graphic design for hire. I don't have time. I don't have those tools. I go outsource that kind of stuff. But for quick and simple modifications of things, especially for social promotion of events and activities, I go and mock things up, add things, move it around inside of PowerPoint, save it as an image, tweak it, size it and everything. And it is fantastic how quick and easy it is.
I do that every day. I do posts. I do like Facebook posts with little like these little quotes or something like that with a picture and some text on top of it.
Yep.
I have a course called PowerPoint for Marketing Graphics, and it's all how to use PowerPoint as a graphics tool for marketing. So it's social media, it's for a sales page, it's to create a logo kind of thing to represent a product. Whatever it is, we need to use images all the time. And in fact, that's part of my argument about why I don't understand why people put up all text slides. It's like, these people know when you make a Facebook post, you put a picture up. When you put up a blog, you put a picture up. And then it's like they get into PowerPoint and they just become stupid. It's like, they know that you have to engage people. The power of images to engage people is just so potent.
Yep.
Images have the ability to evoke emotions, for example, that you can't do as easily with text. Not that good writers can't do that, but it's so important. And we can create video with PowerPoint too. So I put that on social media, these little short, little animated videos that you can create. I have another little course on that.
Well, we'll have to provide links to some of this stuff as well. But Ellen, I really appreciate your time today talking, and it's I'm sure you're going to get some people that are inquiring about these some of your resources that you've named, because
I'd love to make them available. Sure.
Everybody needs to have, again, some level of proficiency with PowerPoint, because it's such a powerful tool. So, Ellen, thanks a lot for your time today. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, great talking to you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.